Hello, Birdsong with you again. Some of you know me from radio and television, but my day job is that of a law professor at the Berry School of Law. I help people become lawyers and I help them pass the bar. I'm a lawyer, a lecturer, and a law professor. Today we talk about inchoate crimes. Inchoate, I-N-C-H-O-A-T-E. It means not completed. It comes from the Latin. You can be convicted of a crime, an inchoate crime, even though maybe the crime didn't go to fruition. What are the inchoate crimes? Well, there are three basic ones you need to know to pass the bar. The first is solicitation. The second is conspiracy. And finally, attempt. What is solicitation? Well, solicitation is when you ask someone or connive and try to get someone to commit a crime with the intent that they commit that crime. That's what solicitation is. You try to get them to commit a crime. Now, even if the crime is not committed, you could be convicted of solicitation. Just asking someone to commit the crime is against the law in most states. Now, if that person commits the crime that you asked them to commit, you will be just as guilty as the person who committed the crime. But the trick to remember with solicitation is that you, the person who solicited, can only be convicted of the crime that's convicted, or committed rather. The solicitation merges into the completed crime. That's one of the things you have to remember about solicitation. Then there's conspiracy. Conspiracy is an agreement between two or more people to commit an illegal act. In the old days, that is, during the development of the common law, all you had to do was to agree. Two people agreed to commit some crime, that was enough. Many modern day statutes say you have to agree to commit a crime, and at least one of the persons has to take an overt act toward committing that crime. An example, you and your friend decide to knock off the local 7-Eleven, and one of you goes out and buys a gun because you're going to pull off an armed robbery. That was an agreement to commit a crime, an armed robbery, and one of you went and bought the gun with the intent of carrying it out. That's enough for a conspiracy. Even if you don't go to the 7-Eleven, you had all the intention of doing it, you can be convicted of this inchoate, that is, uncompleted crime of conspiracy. So what's the last one? Attempt. You'll probably learn more about this as you take the bar, but an attempt is having the specific intent to commit a certain crime, and you go beyond mere preparation to do that crime. That is, maybe you take a substantial step. You know, I used to teach about this case. It was a real case. There was a fellow by the name of Duran back in 1994, I think it was. He wanted to kill the President of the United States. The President was Bill Clinton. Anyway, Mr. Duran lived in Colorado, and he said he's going to go out and kill the President. The question is, when did his preparation end and his perpetration begin? You know, he bought a lot of ammunition in his home state of Colorado. He put it in his truck. He got a gun, got several guns, and he started driving toward Washington, D.C. He stopped along the way many times, but he kept going to Washington. When he got into Virginia, he stopped in Richmond, which is about 100 miles from Washington, D.C., and he bought this long overcoat where he could hide one of his AK-47s under. Then he drove on to the Washington area and got a hotel room across the Potomac River. The question is he now attempting to kill the president? He's very close. The common law says there's this rule of immediate nearness. Maybe there was enough for the Secret Service to pick him up, but they didn't. He went into Washington, D.C. He went to the White House. He's standing in front of the White House. It's an October day. It's warm. He has on a long coat. He's got an AK-47 under his coat. Is this enough to get him for attempted assassination or murder of the president? Maybe yes. Then he pulls out the gun and he starts shooting at the White House because he sees someone coming out of the White House that looks like Bill Clinton. Certainly now this is an attempt. What do you think about those kinds of things? Might we say under modern law an attempt is a what? Specific intent to commit a crime, and you take a substantial step. Duran took a bunch of substantial steps. Think about it. This is Birdsong. You'll hear from me again.